Ever get that feeling? Like you're trying to wrap your head around something really complex and you just end up drowning in information.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's where we come in. Welcome to the deep dive, where we take these super dense topics and boil them down to the most important insights, the things that will actually stick with you, and maybe even blow your mind a little.
Absolutely.
All for you.
Today we're diving into something that might sound a little bit sci-fi, but trust us, it's a real scientific frontier. We're
Right.
talking about bioelectricity
Oh, yeah.
and the crazy idea of an anatomical compiler.
Okay, so we've been looking at some research that suggests these electrical signals in our bodies, bioelectricity, could actually be the key to reprogramming living tissue.
Like literally telling it what to do.
Yeah, at a really fundamental level.
Yeah.
Pretty wild, huh?
And that anatomical compiler thing, that takes it even further. Imagine designing, say, a three-headed flatworm on a computer. Or maybe a completely new organ that does something we've never seen before.
Okay, now you're just messing with me.
No, but seriously, and then picture this, having actual living cells build it based on bioelectric instructions.
Okay, that is pretty wild.
It's a super ambitious goal.
So today, we're going to try to really break down the core ideas of bioelectricity and how it might be used to reprogram life itself. What does this mean for the future of medicine? Why should you care? We'll get into all of that.
It's going to be a fascinating ride.
Absolutely.
So to really grasp the potential of this field, it helps to start with what it's trying to overcome, the limitations of current medicine.
Right, because even with all the amazing advancements we've made, medicine today still works in a pretty specific way, doesn't it?
It does. You know, one of the sources we looked at made this really interesting comparison to early computer science. Back in those days, if you wanted to change what a computer did, you basically had to rewire its circuits, right?
Oh, yeah. Physically change the hardware.
Exactly. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of what we do in medicine today.
We tinker with the hardware?
Right. We're really good at manipulating things at the molecular level, changing genes, targeting proteins, even messing with the pathways inside cells.
But what about the bigger picture, right? Like, what if we wanted to regrow a limb or fix a birth defect from the ground up?
Ah, that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a whole other level of complexity.
And that's where our current methods often hit a wall. They just weren't designed to handle that kind of large-scale, adaptable change. It's like trying to rewrite a whole program by just tweaking a few lines of code.
That's a great analogy. So is bioelectricity like a whole new programming language for the body?
That's the exciting idea. Think of it like a software layer that sits on top of the hardware, the DNA.
So instead of directly changing the hardware, we could use this software to control how it behaves.
Exactly. We could give instructions to the existing hardware and tell it how to organize and function in completely new ways. And this takes us to a whole new way of thinking about living matter itself.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what are we saying here? That living tissues are actually intelligent.
Well, the research definitely points in that direction. It suggests that living tissues aren't just passive components, they have a kind of inherent intelligence and ability to adapt.
Okay, I need an example because that's a big claim.
All right, think about lacrimaria. It's this single-celled organism, no brain, no nervous system, but it can hunt and move with purpose. It's amazing.
A single cell hunting, that's crazy.
Right. Even at that basic level, we're seeing something that looks a lot like intelligence, a drive to achieve goals.
Wow. And this isn't limited to just simple organisms, right?
Yeah.
What about us?
Of course not. Our own bodies, right from the start, when we're just a tiny clump of cells, they're demonstrating this intelligence. Think about the intricate process of forming tissues and organs or how we heal after an injury.
It's credible when you think about it.
And here's the thing. This intelligence isn't just happening at the cell level. It's happening within cells, at the molecular level, too. There's evidence of molecular networks learning and adapting.
Learning.
Yeah.
Like how?
Well, there's this fascinating example of something like Pavlovian conditioning happening within these networks, all without neurons or synapses. It's mind-boggling.
That's crazy. So we're talking about intelligence across all levels of life, from the smallest molecule to the entire organism.
Exactly. It's a whole new way of looking at biology.
Okay, so we've got intelligence at the tissue level.
Yeah.
How does that actually play out in the real world? I know we talked about this really interesting experiment with something called Picasso tadpoles.
Oh, yeah, that one's a classic. Researchers took frog embryos and basically scrambled their facial features. They moved the building blocks of eyes, mouths, nostrils, everything. You'd think these tadpoles would end up looking like, well, Picasso paintings.
Totally deformed.
Right. But here's the thing, they didn't. They still developed into normal-looking tadpoles. The tissues somehow rearranged themselves and corrected the
Are you
mess.
serious? So they knew where everything was supposed to go.
It seems that way. And this suggests that it's not just the genes controlling everything. The tissues themselves are making decisions, actively working towards the correct structure.
Hold on, so how do they know what a correct frog face is supposed to look like? Are we saying they have a blueprint somewhere?
That's the big question, right? The idea is that tissues somehow hold a memory of the goal shape.
A memory, like a computer program.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. And they use that memory to guide their actions and achieve the right outcome. It's a kind of distributed intelligence where the cells work together towards a common goal.
Okay, that brings us back to bioelectricity, doesn't it? What's the role of these signals in all of this?
It's like this. Think about how our brains work. We have these neural networks where electrical signals are constantly zipping between neurons, storing memories, guiding our thoughts and actions. What if our tissues are using bioelectricity in a similar way?
Like a communication network for the body.
Exactly. A way to coordinate actions and store information about structure and function.
So it's not just random electrical activity, it's meaningful communication.
Right. And we're seeing evidence of these bioelectric patterns in all sorts of tissues, not just the brain. For example, researchers have been looking at zebrafish embryos, and they've found these patterns in both the brain and non-neural tissues. It's fascinating.
So what are these patterns telling the cells?
Well, one really cool example is this idea of an electric face. In frog embryos, they've observed these bioelectric signals creating a kind of blueprint for the face, even before the actual organs start to form.
Like an electrical sketch of the face.
Exactly. It seems these patterns are encoding spatial information, telling the cells where to put everything, eyes here, mouth there. You get the idea.
Wow. So these bioelectric signals are essentially acting as a guide for building the organism.
And it's not just important for initial development, it also plays a crucial role in healing and regeneration.
That makes sense.
Hmm?
But how does bioelectricity actually help integrate all these individual cells and tissues into a whole organism?
Well, think about it like this. When something disrupts a developing embryo, the surrounding cells don't just ignore it. They respond in a coordinated way. They communicate and work together to fix the problem.
So it's like they're all talking to each other.
Exactly. And bioelectricity seems to be a big part of that conversation, allowing cells to sense and respond to what their neighbors are doing.
And the cool thing is, we can actually see these electrical conversations happening, right?
Oh, yeah. Thanks to some really cool tools, scientists have developed these voltage-sensitive dyes that light up when there's electrical activity. It's like being able to see the bioelectric chatter in real time.
That's amazing. But here's what really blows my mind. We're not just passively observing these signals anymore. We're learning how to control them.
Absolutely. That's where things get really interesting.
So how are we doing that?
Well, there are a few different approaches. One is using pharmacology, essentially drugs that can target the ion channels responsible for creating these electrical signals.
So we're manipulating the channels that control the flow of electricity.
Exactly. Another cool technique is optogenetics, which uses light to control genetically modified cells.
Light, how does that work?
Well, scientists can engineer cells to be sensitive to light. Then they can shine specific wavelengths of light on those cells to either activate or inhibit their electrical activity.
Wow, so we're using light to control bioelectricity.
It's pretty amazing. And there are other methods too, all aimed at precisely controlling how cells communicate electrically.
Okay, so this isn't just some theoretical curiosity. This has real-world implications. Why should we care about being able to read and write these bioelectric signals? What's the big deal?
The big deal is this could revolutionize medicine as we know it. If we can crack the code of these bioelectric signals, if we can understand how they store information and guide development, the possibilities are endless.
Okay, give me some specifics. What kind of breakthroughs are we talking about?
Think about birth defects. What if we could reprogram tissue development in the womb to correct those defects before a baby is even born?
That's a game changer. No more waiting to treat symptoms. We could fix the problem at the source.
Exactly. Or what about regeneration? We always dreamed of regrowing limbs, and this could be the key. We could study animals like salamanders, which are masters of regeneration, and learn how to activate those same processes in humans.
That would be incredible. And what about cancer? Could bioelectricity help us fight that too?
Absolutely. Cancer is, in many ways, a breakdown of normal tissue organization. If we understand the bioelectric blueprint that keeps tissues healthy, We might be able to reprogram cancerous cells back to normalcy, or even stop them from growing in the first place.
So we're moving away from simply attacking cancer cells and towards understanding how to control their behavior.
Exactly. It's a whole new paradigm. We're starting to think of cells as intelligent agents that we can communicate with, not just mindless biological machines.
So we're talking about bioelectric medicine.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the body's own intelligence and its ability to heal and regenerate.
Okay, so for those of you listening out there, what's the main takeaway?
The big idea is that we're at the dawn of a new era in medicine. We're learning to speak the language of life itself, the language of bioelectricity, and this could lead to some truly groundbreaking advances in healthcare.
It's pretty mind-blowing, right? We're not just talking about treating diseases, we're talking about reprogramming life at its core.
And it all starts with understanding the incredible power of bioelectricity.
Well, this has certainly given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
So as you go about your day, let this idea sink in. What if we could truly program living tissues? What boundaries could we break? What if birth defects were a thing of the past? What other limitations could we overcome? It's a pretty exciting future to imagine.
It certainly is. And it's a future that's being shaped by the research we've discussed today.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.